Welcome to episode 218 of the Microsoft Cloud IT Pro podcast, recorded live on February 19th, 2021. This is a show about Microsoft 365 and Azure from the perspective of IT pros and end users, where we discuss a topic or recent news and how it relates to you. In this episode, we talk about Microsoft wanting to talk about group sprawl in Microsoft 365, recording meetings in Teams and where they're stored, either SharePoint or Stream or a combination of the two, and MTA certification expiration later this year. Can we talk about spending money? Because
we can talk about spending money.
Okay, so we've been talking on and off. I'm going to go on a few different tangents here because that's what I do. I like tangents. So we've been talking on and off about the Jabra, right? The 510, the little puck speakerphone disc thing.
Yeah, it's a lifesaver. It's amazing.
It is. So we got in a Twitter conversation with somebody the other day that said, hey, why don't Teams controls work on it? What's going on here? And you and I were both like, well, Teams controls work perfectly on it. We don't have any issues with it.
Teams, Zoom, it all works fine. Windows, Mac, you name it.
I learned something this week. So my puck is right like 3 feet from my mouth. However, it is like 3 inches from my mechanical keyboard. Let me tell you what that does to phone calls. People now hate me. Right. So I decided, like, Teams has the whole background noise canceling thing. It's not there in the Mac client yet.
It does. Yep. It's auto by default, but you can make it super aggressive in Windows.
Yes, but it doesn't work on a Mac. So I was like, let's go try Crisp, because I've heard of people using Crisp and I've seen people using Crisp and it's really, really good. So I went and installed that, set my Teams to Crisp Audio. If you don't have the Jabra set as the primary audio device for Teams, and you run it through something like Crisp, or if you're using some other virtual mic for some reason, running it through anything other than going straight Jabra to Teams, none of the controls work for Teams.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that makes sense, right? Because it's coming through a different
device. Well,
effectively, it's like a virtualized interface at that point. So now you'd have to rely on Crisp in that case to have support for Teams or Skype controls.
Right, to pass those through. So yes. You can still use the mute, because that's a kind of like a button. Software, hardware, right, mute button. It doesn't actually hit the little mute button in Teams, but it'll still mute the device itself. But none of the calling or hang up, which are really the only two other buttons. Calling and hang up don't work anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing you have your Stream Deck there.
It is. So
so now you have all the buttons on your Stream Deck, or maybe you've just memorized all those other things, or we can get you this nifty hardware mute button, or I've got some nice software mute buttons as well for Mac OS.
Well, but the hardware one only works for XLR mic, which I should get. And I'm using my shotgun mic again. I have repositioned it. So it used to be like up and to my left. Now it's above me and pointing down a little bit to my right. So once again, I invited feedback last week. I'll invite feedback again this week. Do I keep doing this, or do I switch back to my Procaster? We have a lot more audio listeners than YouTube viewers. So I am not opposed to switching back to Procaster for the podcast and using the shotgun for when I do my YouTube videos.
That is so benevolent of you.
I am, like I have said before, I am here for the people, for the listeners. I am all about providing pleasantries to your ears.
Yeah. All right. So I got one more for you before we get into it. Speaking of pleasantries for your ears, I'm always trying to find new ways to have background noise just kind of going on during my day. So if I'm not on a call, I really don't want like the silence of the house, or like I don't want to hear my neighbors mowing their lawn, their dogs barking, whatever it happens to be. And I was traveling like quite a bit before this whole pandemic thing hit and, travel stopped. And I used to like just kind of sitting in a bar and listening to conversations. People like eat your dinner, right? Like
it's
a way
entertaining.
But it's a way to interact with people without having to interact with them. Like at the most, you got to talk to maybe the person next to you and the bartender when they come by to give you your food.
Yep.
So great little website. It's called imissmybar.com. And there's lots of websites out there like this, but I liked this one because it was specifically geared around having bar background noises, like a bartender working, or rain on the window, some night ambiance, some sounds of drinks being served, things like that. So it's a little bit different than maybe some of the other like coffee house filters or things and websites that you might have run into. And it's just got a weekly playlist built into it, runs off Spotify. So you just kind of go in, you hit play on a bunch of the sounds you want, and you hit play on the weekly playlist. And it's like just nice, smooth, like background jazz kind of stuff. And so that's been my guilty pleasure this week is imissmybar.com.
Interesting. Maybe I'll have to go listen to my bar sounds. I've used off and on focus at will, which is definitely not bar sounds, but it's something different than like throwing on a playlist on.
Very similar. I go through a bunch of these. Like there's all sorts of websites and apps that can make this happen. This just happened to be the one du jour, right? Like this is one this week.
And I can see that because sometimes, like you, I don't want music, but I like some background something. So I might have to check that one out. Other things to check out.
Yeah. What else should we check out?
I don't know. I could have gone so many different directions that we need to focus on the topic today. I am not focused. Did you know that 7 years after Office 365 Groups was released, which is now Microsoft 365 Groups. And to be fair, I did not do the math on this. Tony Redmond did in his article we will link to. Microsoft wants to talk about group sprawl in your tenant. With the shift to remote work and the increased adoption of Microsoft 365, your users may be creating lots of Microsoft 365 groups.
They might be.
Admins may need additional tools to manage large number of Microsoft 365 groups and deal with group sprawl.
They very well might. They might have needed these things since day one or guidance around these things. But
you know what? I'm pretty sure I've been talking about this for 7 years. So I am more than willing to talk about it, but they would like to schedule a 1 hour, both one-to-one or roundtable discussion with admins who manage large number of Microsoft 365 groups. If that's you, there's a form to fill out. I imagine this could literally be just about every company that has rolled out Microsoft 365 and has had it for longer than the last 12 months.
12 months, 2 months, depends on the organization when you turn some of this stuff on. But yeah, an opportunity to talk specifically with the engineering team. So it's not like talking to product marketing or things like that. It's more direct feedback to program managers and engineers. So, that's kind of a good thing about it. And it's always nice to see that there are potentially ways to get direct feedback to Microsoft outside of things like, just go to user voice and then you hit user voice and why am I upvoting this thing that's 2 years old and hasn't had an update in 2 years? Like what's going on here?
Yeah, no, I agree. And some of my initial feedback would, like, my knee-jerk reaction is to say, well, let's make the disabling group creation for all my users just included for free in every plan. But that would help. Truth be told, though, it's super cheap to do that because I don't know if you've gone and looked at the licensing for that lately. And I don't know when this got updated or if it was updated or if it's always been this way or if it just got clarified. But in order to block Microsoft 365 group creation, you need that Azure AD Premium license for the person that blocks it, one license, and then the people that are going to be creating Microsoft 365 groups. I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 licenses of Azure AD Premium, like $12 a month. And this might be gray areas of licensing, but if you tie it into, let's say, something like Azure Automation or Power Automate, where technically there's just the one person connecting from your automation to your tenant to create the groups, maybe you just need one license. The license that's connecting and the license.
I'm wearing headphones, but just pretend that I'm sticking my fingers all the way into my ears.
Into your ears, saying, and you're not listening to this.
La, la, la.
Yeah. I don't know exactly how that shakes out, but the licensing for that isn't super expensive. That would be one thing I would say is just forget the licensing for that. Just take that one feature of blocking groups and include it in every tenant. Reality is, I think if Microsoft wants to fix this, they need to put something more in place to put some approvals in there, put some type of workflow in there, do something that a lot of third-party ISVs have started doing in order to help manage and govern groups, because there's a lot more than just the creation and deletion. It's managing the life cycle. It's managing the content in them. It's also a complicated discussion because there's a lot beyond just creation and deletion that I think is involved, at least when I talk about group sprawl.
Yeah. It's an interesting one for sure. Just wait until the great day of reckoning when Microsoft comes and does Azure AD Premium true-ups.
Oh, yes. But if you have feedback on everything we just said, don't give it to me. Go fill out this form and go talk to Microsoft Engineering about it.
Yep. So one other interesting thing there, like while we're on the subject of feedback, and specifically the Microsoft 365 and Teams and Office product groups and kind of the ways that they're reaching out to community to get feedback. Certainly
you're going there.
I am going to go there. Certainly there's tech community and user voice and all those kinds of things out there. But they've also been on Clubhouse quite a bit. So Clubhouse is this new app. It's only available on iPhones, invitation only, like all the things that come along with that. But there's been these weekly sessions scheduled with various parts of the PG and various members of the PG. So like Omar Shaheen and his team with all the Viva stuff, they have a weekly 20-minute session scheduled where they just go into roadmap and kind of talk about what's coming next and what they're thinking and how they're thinking about kind of the Viva suite as it evolves, which is kind of cool because like we talked about a couple weeks ago, Viva is really an amalgamation of products that already existed. So if you think about it less as where's Viva going and where are these individual products going, you can probably get something out of that either way. I also joined last night. I had sent you a link to one that was kind of going on that it just popped up in my feed. And it was a bunch of folks, CVPs and senior VPs at Microsoft. So and in the Teams area. So Jeff Teeper, Graham, what's Graham's last name? Shipley, a bunch of people. Rish, who owns Teams Engineering, like on the desktop, like client tooling, things like that. Rima Reyes, who's a program manager in Teams for GCC. Caruana was on there, like a bunch of familiar voices and certainly familiar avatars when you see them. But they just went and riffed for an hour and took questions from random people on the internet, which was really nice to see. And I think a different and potentially more genuine way to interact with product engineering at Microsoft. And again, specifically product engineering. So not just product marketing and kind of the rah side of the house, which that's certainly always there. But also the folks who are building those products and potentially living with them day in and day out. So if you have an iPhone and you've heard about Clubhouse, whatever, reach out to Ben or I, and we'll see if we can't get you an invite.
Yes, I have a couple invites at least.
And spread the love a little bit, and then get you into potentially some of these rooms if that's something that's interesting to you.
Yeah, I need to go learn more about Clubhouse and filtering out my feed so I get less of the stuff that I could care less about and more of the stuff that's actually interesting. So I am still learning because I just got my invite from you a couple days ago. But it was interesting. The other part I found interesting was some of the questions that, again, it's random people on the internet. Some of the questions
very random
that people ask give you different insights. And at least for me, especially as a consultant, give me insights into different things that people are dealing with, that they're facing. One of the first questions someone asked was about all of the interaction between Skype and Teams and what Microsoft was going to do in the future around Skype and Teams and how these were going to work together. And again, it was just, I'm not going to go into that. The answer was interesting, to say the least. It gives you a whole nother insight into what some of these companies are doing, as well as some of the understanding that is there or may not be there, both from what Microsoft is planning and from what people think Microsoft is planning.
Yes. Yeah. Like what are they consuming from a product roadmap standpoint, and how does that affect them as they really get deeper into SaaS products like Microsoft 365, Office 365, all that kind of stuff? Because there are meaningful impacts there. But yeah, I'd encourage you. Like again, it's a very gated community kind of thing, like invite only, all that, iPhone only. But I'm happy to hand out invitations if people have an iPhone and are interested in that. I was also getting a big kick out of particularly some of these things around the Microsoft space. Like one of the reasons I hopped into that room, and I wasn't going to do it because it was kind of like late at night, right? It was like 8:00 at night, and
right.
I've got the kids around, things like that. But I also noticed some like senior Verge reporters were in that room. Like clearly there's other people listening in. And yeah, if it's worth their time, maybe it's worth my time to sit here and figure out like if there is anything coming up. And potentially like you do learn some things along the way. So yeah.
Yep. Well, and for me, same thing. I was playing with kids and stuff. I actually just turned it on my phone, put it on speakerphone, and just kind of set it off to the side and almost treated it like a background noise while I was playing with the kids, and just kind of half listened. So it's kind of nice from that perspective too. Don't need to have the computer out, not sitting on a webinar, just kind of treating it like the radio in the background and catching what I could.
Yep. So yeah. That's Clubhouse.
Kind of fun. So I have a new one. This one we didn't talk about, but I'm going to spring it on you. Since we were talking about Teams and the product team, Microsoft has changed the date for switchover of team meeting recordings for OneDrive. So previously announced, I don't remember when, but there's going to be a change where Stream Classic is going away. And all of those meeting recordings and Teams are going to start getting saved in SharePoint and OneDrive. Originally, it was January 7 and January. Oh, no, these are new timelines. I don't know what the old timelines were, but new timelines, January 7, 2021, already came and gone. All new recordings of Teams meetings are stored in OneDrive unless the organization explicitly chooses to continue using Stream by updating their meeting policies. So they should all be starting to go to SharePoint now. Although I had a client the other day that they were still going to Stream, and I don't think they changed anything.
It's weird out there. So I have some team recordings that go to Stream, and I have some that go to OneDrive, and there's really no rhyme or reason to it.
Oh, why?
Yeah. In the same channel sometimes too. Like if I have like a meeting that I record the same, like one time it goes here, one time it goes there. all sorts of fun.
That
but yeah,
January
that
7 date might not be completely accurate. But then July 7 is the incremental rollout of switching tenants to store new recordings. So new recordings, it doesn't make a lot of sense. January 7, new recordings are stored in OneDrive. July 7, an incremental rollout begins to switch tenants to store new recordings to OneDrive. Oh, even if the meeting policies are set to use Stream, I should read the whole sentence.
You should.
That would help.
Yeah. So I think the original date for education customers was in July anyway. So like it wouldn't impact the school year while it was going on. And I think this just lines everything up. So commercial and education customers would get on.
Or no, July.
It would be on the same timeline.
So that being said, playing back videos in OneDrive or SharePoint is still not great. Hopefully we'll find out more about that. Ignite is coming up too in like 2 weeks, I think. March 3 through
March 2 through the 4th.
Yeah.
Second through the 4th. Yep.
So maybe we'll find out more coming up there about this whole plan for Stream and a whole bunch of other news.
I imagine you'll learn a lot at Ignite about particularly like Microsoft 365 and where they're going with some of this stuff. So you've got Ignite in March, and then Build typically follows that in May. I haven't seen any dates. Any dates for Build, like if it's going to be in like May or June or things like that. But back to that whole Clubhouse thing. And if you listen hard enough when people are talking, one of the things like Jeff Teeper was saying along the way was they're already looking past Ignite and thinking about like developer experience and some of the stories they can tell there around, say like unified app canvases, like write an app once, be able to run it in SharePoint Teams at Build in May. So hopefully that's true, and like we'll get those dates relatively soon.
So maybe starting to extend that SharePoint framework more, because you can already do some with the SharePoint framework in 2 places, but maybe extend it more or do something different there.
Yeah, I mean across the board, right? Like there's a lot of kind of developer tooling that can come out for either actually like code solutions or also no code solutions along the way. Yeah, looking forward to a lot of that.
All right. Definitely. And we will be doing Ignite stuff. And Scott, I realized like we put out that form and said we'd email or mail stickers at the last Ignite. I still have not done that yet. I have the labels here. I have the stickers. I need to figure out international postage because mailing stuff internationally is not super easy.
Well, it didn't use. Now it's even harder because like the mail in the US is all screwed up.
Well, pretty much everything is, thanks to winter storms.
Mail is not screwed up because of winter storms. Mail has been screwed up for other reasons.
True. It's just screwed up more now, including my package that's stuck somewhere between here and Utah. But another topic for another day. But yes, I made that realization. I need to like take some time and figure out how to do mail merges because I haven't done those in years, and print some labels and get those shipped off. So if you did fill out that form and you were expecting stickers like 4 months ago when I said I was going to do this, I'm sorry, I've been busy. I have failed the listeners. While bringing pleasantries to your ears, I have failed in delivering swag to your mailboxes.
Wow.
But
quite the admission there.
I have not forgotten. I need my kids to be old enough to do that for me.
Yeah, don't we all?
Okay.
It'd be nice to have mail merge employees.
Yeah. Back to topics. What other topic do you want to talk about? Pick something.
Pick something. Some interesting stuff kind of came out this week around certifications. If you are or have in the past gone and gotten a Microsoft Technology Associate and an MTA certification, or potentially you have encouraged others around you to get an MTA certification just as a way to onboard into IT, maybe have a kind of a cert on your resume. So when you go and interview with an employer, things like that, MTA certs were, I think, to a certain degree, an easier onboarding, easier ramp than maybe taking say like in certainly like an AZ 300, like a solution architect exam, or even some of the like 104, 204 kind of paced exams that are out there. So MTAs are going away. They are all going to retire on June 30, 2022. So that means on July 1, 2022, there will not be any more MTA exam deliveries. You can still purchase MTA certification licenses through June 30th. But if an MTA was something that you were working towards, you are going to want to kind of keep working towards that and make sure that you get it done before June 30, 2022.
Work faster. The light has turned yellow. Don't slow down. Go faster.
No, the MTAs, like I said, they might have considered, I always considered them to maybe be like the kind of on-ramp or some of the easier exams that were out there in the Microsoft space. But they were good. Like I know here in Jacksonville, in the local community, one of the IT pro groups, every year they do like a big MTA boot camp where we bring a bunch of people in and we try and upskill them enough on the technologies so that they can go and pass those exams on the same days, so that they can specifically put them on their resumes and potentially go and interview and talk to employers and recruiters and things like that. So it kind of sad to see him go, but yeah.
I'm mixed. I've never spent the time, to be fair, to understand the MTAs and their purpose. Like I get the quick skill up on board, get it on a resume. I always felt like there was a lot of confusion there because you kind of had the MTAs over here and then you had all the other exams over here. So I never understood them very well. So I can see them going away, especially with some of the fundamentals, right? Because now if you say you have all the associate level where you can go take like the 900 level and get your fundamentals, to me, you can probably get pretty close to upskilling enough in a day, similar to the MTAs, where you can go take those, pass those in a day. They're going to be very much those introductory levels. So I can see where Microsoft is maybe going with that, is let's get a single unified set of exams, platform for exams, and maybe we see a few more introductory type exams showing up similar to the 900s. And then you just build from those 900s until you get to that expert level and whatever other levels there in all those exams.
Yes. I think potentially one of the things there is when you talk about like fundamental exams, the MTA exams have fundamentals for on-premises server software things.
Got it.
Like you can do like SQL Server on-prem database fundamentals. There's Windows Server fundamentals, and like whether Microsoft Learning wants to recognize it or not, like those are certainly things that still exist out there. So if you look at the modern certifications, there is no modern certification to become Microsoft certified in like Windows Server fundamentals.
Got it.
It's Power Platform, it's Microsoft 365, it's Azure, it's Dynamics. It's all the things that are cloudy. And you might have some on-prem touch in there, right? Because of the hybrid world that many of us live in. Right. But if you are still dedicated to an on-prem world and like that was your thing, or that's where you wanted to go with and kind of stay in your career path, there was a niche for those certifications to sit in.
Got it. So now we just need to get those. Well, and I mean, you still have IaaS too. There's still a lot of people doing IaaS, and Azure, where you still have to be a server admin and a SQL on-prem admin if you're still doing that in ISVM. Or, like you said, I still know lots of people with data centers and all their on-prem hardware. So, yes, that did not click as I was thinking through this about that the MTAs did have a lot more of that on-premises stuff.
Yep. Just a different world to live in, right? Or if you were looking for a basic, not even just server stuff, like you're looking for a basic like web development. So maybe not even web development, but HTML and CSS, like a web design certification.
Okay.
MTAs had that versus doing like a full-on developer cert in the new modern role-based stuff. Which like, if you're going to go do like the AZ 204, you got to pick a language, right? Am I doing C#? Am I doing Python, Node, like JavaScript? Like what's the thing that I'm going to go take my exam on? And then know about all these other like SaaS and PaaS services that sit on the side that integrate, that I can build my apps on top of these app platforms. And it's like, just HTML and CSS, right? And for better or worse, like there's waiting behind having that certification with the Microsoft logo on it.
Yep. Very interesting. Should we call it a wrap?
Yeah.
I don't have anything. Well, I do have more stuff, but we still try to keep it to about our 30 minutes ish.
There's always more to talk about there.
Oh, there's lots more to talk about because I've had an interesting week. One of the topics we were going to talk about, we'll kick this one down the road, was playing with MFA stuff and NIST and CMMC and some government regulations. But that is going to take way more than like 2 or 3 minutes. So add it to one of the topics for the future, kick it down the road a little bit, because it's been interesting playing with that over the last couple of weeks.
All right. Sounds like a plan.
All right. Go enjoy your Friday. It is still warm here for a little bit longer. The only state that does not have freezing temperatures right now.
We were doing pretty good yesterday, like up in the 80s, but today we're going to be down in the 50s. So we'll see.
Yes. It got up to, the feels like here was 85 yesterday. Yeah, it was a little odd.
It's a rough life.
But yes, go enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy cooler weather, and we will talk to you next week.
All right. Thanks, Ben.